Thank you, Rabbi Garber. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming in support of a very, very, very wonderful, worthy cause. As Rabbi Garber mentioned, right now, Eretz Yisrael is at the forefront of our minds. And therefore, let me begin first by sharing with you a remarkable comment that was made by Michael Oren. Michael Oren is well known both as the former Israeli ambassador to the U.S., but also equally well known as perhaps the foremost historian of the Six-Day War. He wrote the book, 6 Days of War. And just last night, Michael Oren reached out to Barry Weiss. You may have heard her name. She is a Jewish reporter, formerly of the New York Times. She left because of her disgust at the New York Times' ongoing prejudice and absolute abysmal journalism with regard to Israel and the Arabs. And she now has her own organization called the Free Press. Michael Oren reached out to Barry Weiss last night and said to her that the events of Thursday night and Friday are even more miraculous than the opening day of the Six-Day War in terms of what has been accomplished from the perspective of a historian who is an expert in that war, and given his perspective of this war and comparing the two, he said what we just saw Thursday and Friday is far more miraculous than what we lived through and saw on the opening days of the Six-Day War, which is an astounding observation. And obviously there's much more to say about that, but the one difference perhaps we can for now add is that whereas Six-Day War, we look back now and we saw it was over in 6 days, and tragically there were hundreds of casualties from Tzahal, but we look back and we appreciate now the magnitude of the miracle. This war, which is still ongoing, and it is so frightening because massive civilian population centers are being targeted with weapons of destruction that they didn't have in 1967 to fire at Israeli civilian centers. We don't know at this point how soon this war will end. And therefore we still, at the same time as we recognize and acknowledge and are so grateful for the remarkable nisim that we just saw Thursday night and Friday, we still are davening intensely, but more so we need to ask ourselves what it is that we can do to bring about Yeshua Hashem Keharpayin as soon as possible, to ensure that this miraculous end to the war will come about as soon as possible. And to that end, the Orach Chaim has a fascinating comment in Parshas B'chukosai. When the Torah describes in the opening psukim of Parshas B'chukosai, when we live life as we should, as Jews, and engage in the study of Torah and the pursuit of mitzvos, the Torah tells us, V'nosati shalom. The Torah says, Ushchavtem ve'ein macharid. You will dwell securely, sleep securely without any fear. It says, V'nosati shalom ba'aretz, Shchavtem ve'ein macharid. And it repeats again after that, V'nosati shalom ba'aretz. And so the Orach Chaim asks, if you've already told me that you will lie at night in peace without fear, why are you repeating V'nosati shalom ba'aretz? The Orach Chaim writes as follows. He says, because there are two types of shalom. There is peace between Jews and enemies, and there's peace between Jew and Jew. And in order to ensure that you dwell securely, Yishavtem levetach ba'artzachem is the opening pasuk. Yishavtem levetach ba'artzachem, u'shchavtem ein macharid. There needs to be still the Nasati Shalom ba'aretz. Amongst the land itself, between Jew and Jew, there's got to be peace. And so yes, for peace between Jew and enemy, there must be also peace between Jew and Jew. Nasati Shalom ba'aretz. Which means that to ensure that we have that bracha of the Yishavtem levetach ba'artzachem, to dwell securely in our land, we have to work on shalom between Jew and Jew. What does that mean, shalom between Jew and Jew? It means assuming responsibility one for another. It means recognizing that Yisrael Oevim zeh b'zeh. We're all responsible for each other. Not just physically for each other's safety, but spiritually for each other's spiritual well-being. And if we are able to ensure v'nosati shalom ba'aretz, peace in the land between Jew and Jew, then we'll be zochet that bracha, says the Or Chaim, of v'yeshavtem levetach ba'artzachem, to dwell securely in your land. And to add to that, Or Chaim writes in Parshas Kisei, a remarkable passage. The mitzvah you all know as Hashavas Aveda, returning a lost object to a fellow Jew. The simple reading of the pasuk indicates, you see an animal belonging to your brother, don't ignore it, return it to your brother. The Chaim says, know what that means? You see Shor Achicha, you see the holy sheep of God who are astray, wandering astray. Meaning, says the Or Chaim, the Shor Achicha means the holy sheep, the Jewish people, God's children, who are nidachim baderech. They are nidachim. They are wandering astray. They are sadly lacking in their relationship with the Kadosh Baruch Hu. They are distant, if you will. We have to return them, spiritually speaking, to their Father, to our Father in heaven as well. And he then writes, V'im lo karov achicha elecha. Meaning, says the Or Chaim, V'im lo karov achicha elecha. When God is somewhat distant from us, when we're in Golus, he says, when we're in Golus, V'im lo karov achicha elecha. When we feel a little distant from God, we're still in Golus. The pasuk then says, V'asafto el toch beisecha. What does that mean? Says the Or Chaim, remarkably. V'asafto el toch beisecha means, he says, beisecha means the Beis HaMedrash. Bring those Jews who are distant from God into the Beis HaMedrash. That when we are in Golus, he says, and when the Golus lasts a long time, and we don't know when is the end, the Ketz HaPlos, the wondrous end, going to come. And that long and difficult Golus has brought about Jews distancing themselves or falling off the path and going astray from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. V'asafto toch beisecha. Help bring them back to the Beis Medrash. Teach them the way of life as it should be. That, says the Or Chaim, is the ultimate mitzvah of Hashavas Aveda. You put these two comments of the Or Chaim together and you have a remarkable inspirational message. If we want v'nasati shalom ba'aretz, peace in the land, the way to do that is through taking responsibility one for each other. Ben Yisrael leYisrael. That brings about v'yeshavtem levetach ba'artzachem. And that responsibility is not just a physical safety responsibility, but it's a spiritual responsibility. It's recognizing that Hashavas Aveda means that when we see God's children wandering astray, nidachim, wandering, they are the Shor Achicha, they are the holy sheep of God. And especially when it's lo karov achicha elecha, when God feels distant because we're in Golus, it's difficult, it's long, it's challenging. V'asafto toch beisecha, bring those holy sheep back into the Beis Medrash. Hold on to them, adrosh achicha oso, until God draws us all close with the Geula. And so what better time, what better schus than here and now? We've been given the opportunity. This is not an ask by Rabbi Garber. This is an offer to enable us to participate in this remarkable mitzvah of, we're looking for a schus of v'yeshavtem levetach ba'artzachem. We're looking for v'nasati shalom ba'aretz. We're looking for, how can I be v'asafto toch beisecha, bring God's holy sheep back into the Beis Medrash? This is the answer, right here. You can right now write out a check and give a gentle tug to a holy sheep, little lamb, little shepsela that is wandering, nidachim. Bring him to the Beis Medrash, bring him into yeshiva. Help bring an end to this difficult galus, and help bring about that remarkable bracha of yeshavtem levetach ba'artzachem that comes as a result of an asati shalom ba'aretz, expressing as best we can that sense of responsibility between one Jew and another, not just for physical safety, but for spiritual well-being, spiritual welfare. Thank you, Rabbi Garber, for that wonderful schus that we shall be able to participate in right here, right now. Thank you so much.